education, philanthropy. And now there is a network of circular economy hubs that are doing research and quickly moving this agenda forward around the world. And the EU has just invested 3.7 billion euro in accelerating the transition to a circular economy in Europe. So clearly this is someone who can make stuff happen and get stuff done. So I thought, wow, this is a great story to start our day in terms of moving into action and what is the new story that we might be seeing emerging, and just having that kind of bigger picture of what's going on in the world and just thinking bigger. So I thought I would just draw out a few of the lessons, which are fairly obvious probably in the video, but now that I've had a chance to reflect, I've put them together in a kind of a starting point for our discussion. So first of all, it was really clear that she had a clear purpose. She talked about since a child, she knew what she wanted to do. She wanted to sail. And then later when she had finished that, accomplished that goal, she saw another mission, which was much bigger, much more daring. And rather than putting the rock back over that idea, she leaned into it. So it was that purpose and that commitment that really pulled her forward. And with Ellen, it all started with a jar of pennies, if you remember that story. As a child, she was putting her school dinner money into a jar. And I think in our work in communities, we don't know when, we don't always see how small actions will build towards a tipping point. But as long as we are moving in the right direction, we can trust that we are building readiness for something bigger to happen. So when the winds and tides are constantly changing, we need to adjust and course correct as we go. And I remember this theme came up yesterday from our stories about the need to be nimble. And that's true when we're navigating any complex system, including our communities. And then when we're immersed in the day-to-day, head down, it's easy to lose track of the big picture and miss important changes and trends. We don't see what's coming at us, and we find ourselves on autopilot. So by contrast, sadly, this boat was not nimble enough. And not only that, but its crew couldn't really see what was ahead. So this is the key to the locker where the Titanic's binoculars were stored. And right before the ship set sail, its second officer was removed from the crew, and in his haste to leave, he forgot to hand over this key to his replacement. So without the binoculars, the lookouts in the crow's nest couldn't see the iceberg until it was too late. And these were the days before sonar, so they were effectively sailing blind. So Ellen knew where she needed to go, and she used a compass to navigate her way. And in our communities, we also need a compass so we can track what we're doing and course correct when we need to. That was another theme that we were hearing yesterday about the importance of evaluation, which is a kind of a compass. So, as Sarah mentioned, I work with Engage Nova Scotia. At a provincial level, GDP has tended to be our compass for charting our direction and measuring progress, how we're doing, the ups and downs, and so on. So in 2015, Engage asked 1,000 Nova Scotians, how should we measure success? Should it be by the improvement of our quality of life, or should it be by GDP? And 68% said growth in our economy, but 81% said it's about our quality of life. So my Engaged colleagues are now working on a quality of life index for the province that we hope can be a compass that's a little more broad than just simply GDP. And it will be measuring in 8 areas, including things like living standards, leisure and culture, environment, community vitality, and so on. So when Ellen saw this new mission, this much bigger one, it wasn't going to be a solo voyage this time, and she brought together some of the brightest and most influential players that she could find. And if we come back to our provincial level, in the same survey I just mentioned, Engage asked who should lead change in Nova Scotia. And the majority said it couldn't be just any one sector, that they thought that the private sector, nonprofits, government, and academia should all work together. And as we've been hearing in the stories here, many of you are also pulling together partners you need to achieve your goals. Whenever we try new approaches, we become a source of learning for others. Ellen's foundation now has a network of circular economy hubs around the world that are exchanging information and circulating learning and resources. So the circular economy, one of its core principles is that we can eliminate waste, use resources more wisely, and still come out ahead. And as one example of this, in the forestry sector in Nova Scotia, some foresters are finding it more profitable for both the short and the long term to harvest wood for high-end products like tone wood and home decor and furniture rather than clear-cutting for pulp. She also mentioned the sharing economy. We can share resources like cars, office space, kitchens, gardens, workshops, tools, and this strengthens our communities at the same time. So Ellen was talking mostly about natural resources, but the same principles really apply to our people, our most precious resources. Many of you are creating opportunities for people to grow and learn and contribute so that no one's gift is wasted. So just to summarize a few of these points, business as usual is really not an option. We need to adapt to a changing world and create systems that work for us and our planet, for now and for the future. When we have a clear purpose, perseverance, flexibility, and courage, we will move towards our goals. And sometimes learning looks like this. We need first voice, community partners, entrepreneurs, research partners, philanthropists, and government policymakers coming together to move forward. We need visionaries, innovators, and people who are keeping the lights on, paving our roads, and fixing our tools when they break. So this conference is an opportunity to share what we're learning and see the bigger picture together. And I think many of us are wondering, do we need to do more of that? And if so, what would that look like? How could that strengthen all of our work? And something that Ellen didn't mention, but I think being here at Member 2 reminds us that there are some cultures that have known how to live in balance with nature for thousands of years. Anytime I'm in an old growth forest with its beautiful mossy flora and rotting logs and so on, I feel I can see and sense what it would be like to live well with nothing wasted and a sense of abundance, and in a way that continually regenerates new life and new value. So we can build community and a new economy at the same time. A good story inspires action and brings the future we want into focus. And real change is possible. We just need a new story and a new plan. So what stories about who we are and where we're going as a province would put wind in all of our sails? And what is the compass and the plan that would guide us. And what would Wonder Woman do? Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I need one of those microphones that you can just shake, and then it will work again. So I want you to just turn to the people at your table, and if you're sitting by yourself, maybe join a smallish table. And we're just going to take a few minutes to share, if you want to just share something that struck you from the video and the thoughts that Susan shared. But I'm also really interested in this sense of, there's a quote that I really love by Arundhati Roy that says, another world is not only possible, she is already here, and I can hear her breathing. So there's this kind of sense of, whatever this new story is that's calling you, that's calling us, what is it? Where do you see that it's already starting? What's the story that we're wanting to accelerate in our work? So maybe that's the question I want you to answer is, what is a new story that's already here that we want to give energy to so that it can grow? And we'll just take a little bit of time at your tables, and then I'll come around and hear some thoughts in about 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to invite you back. Sorry to interrupt. Does anybody have something that made the hair on your arms stand up, or something that really struck you, or something simple from your table that you want to share with the rest of the room?
I think the first thing our table noticed, and it's hard not to notice, is how young she was. And I think our message was, we need to make room for our young people. And we need to harness the energy and creativity they have and the tools that we don't even know how to use. So.
Thank you.
Two short things. One is, people probably aren't aware, but Nova Scotia is the first jurisdiction in the world, I think, to formally incorporate in its legislation a cradle to cradle. Is it, Susan? Yeah. Sustainable prosperity. And anyway, Nova Scotia's actually got in the legislation something towards really pointing towards a circular economy, which doesn't mean it's being acted on, but symbolically it's inspiring to know that we did it about 10 years ago. The other thing I want to mention in terms of news stories is I'm reading a book called Champlain's Dream about Champlain, as the first European to come to Nova Scotia, and what the vision of it was. And I think we all know the story of his open-handed greeting by Chief Member Two, but this book goes on to sort of explain that Champlain's dream in coming here, and that of a lot of the French who came with him at the time, at the beginning, was to form a really good progressive society with religious tolerance and a friendly relationship with the local people. And this is actually regarded now as the definitive biography of Champlain. So I wanted to say that just to say that there's a story we have here, in addition to the Mi'kmaq story, that maybe is not as prominent, of an iconic gesture of founding Nova Scotia that was based on open-handedness, generosity, and a vision of working together. And that's a story we could also draw on, the early Acadian story.
Thank you, Michael.
I was struck a little bit from our conversation, but mostly from watching the video and from Susan's remarks, that it sort of stood out to me that we act a lot as if things are unlimited. That might sound strange, but like we don't think about finite amounts of time or whatever. We have our economy acts, or we act as if things are unlimited. Yet it's so easy for us to think limited. And why is that? Shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't we be able to think unlimited and act limited?
Thank you. One or two more?
Hi, I think one of the things we talked about a variety of things here, but towards the end, the need to take risks, that she took some immense risks. And are we taking enough risks to really learn and move as quickly as we should be?
Last call. Okay. So we're going to now move to the learning sessions this morning, which I'm not going to read because I did a terrible job last time, but it's in your book. And all of those things are correct, the rooms where they are. And we are going to meet back here for lunch. Sorry. Oh, there's a nutrition break now. This is not the part of my job that I'm very good at. I'm really sorry. There's a nutrition break now, and then the sessions start at 10:30, and we'll be back here for lunch at noon. So enjoy the rest of your morning.